When my grandfather passed away, I inherited something that completely changed my life. It wasn't just a house or a few acres. It was 11,500 acres of private mountain land. And hidden on the property was a natural hot spring that had been in my family for generations. The hot spring was one of the most beautiful places I had ever seen. The previous owners had built a small wooden deck around it, but it was never a commercial spa. It was simply a private family retreat. I knew the property was valuable, but I wasn't interested in turning it into a tourist attraction. I wanted to preserve the hot spring and enjoy it privately. Then I discovered something happening beyond my property line. Members of the nearby HOA had started advertising access to a private spa. Their advertisements showed pictures that looked suspiciously similar to my hot spring. I wonder how they could possibly be selling tickets to a place they didn't own. I called the number printed on the advertisement. The person answering told me the HOA had arranged exclusive weekend access to the spa. Then I asked where exactly the spa was located. The answer was my hot spring. I honestly thought there had to be some mistake. So I drove to the HOA office to speak with the president. That was when I met Linda Whitmore. She greeted me with the confidence of someone who believed the entire situation was completely legitimate. I placed one of the spa advertisements on her desk. Linda looked at the advertisement and barely reacted. She told me the HOA had been promoting the hot spring as a community amenity. I asked her who had given them permission. She said the HOA had always considered the hot spring part of the community's recreational resources. I told her that the hot spring was located entirely inside my 11,500 acre property. Linda insisted that her records showed otherwise. I pulled out my deed and survey. The hot spring was clearly inside my property boundaries. Linda looked at the documents, then claimed the HOA had already sold hundreds of spa tickets. I asked her where the ticket money was going. She said it was being used for community improvements. That answer changed the entire nature of the conversation. My attorney reviewed my deed and the HOA's governing documents. There was nothing giving the HOA ownership of my hot spring. There was also nothing allowing them to sell access to private property. We sent the HOA a formal demand to stop advertising the hot spring. The notice also demanded that they stop selling tickets immediately. I expected them to back down. Instead, Linda sent me a response claiming that the community had historical access to the spring. There was no recorded easement attached, no deed, no agreement, and no legal document supporting the claim. Then I checked my security cameras. The footage showed groups of HOA residents arriving at my property with spa tickets. Some were even being directed toward the hot spring by people wearing HOA badges. I drove out to the spring the following Saturday. To my disbelief, several cars were parked near my private property. A small group of people were waiting near the deck as if they had reservations. I approached them calmly and explained that the hot spring was private property. The visitors were confused because they had paid the HOA for access. Several showed me their tickets as proof. One visitor told me the HOA had advertised the spring as an exclusive community spa. Another showed me a receipt for a weekend reservation. I realized the HOA had turned my private property into a business without asking me. I photographed every ticket, receipt, advertisement, and vehicle. Then I contacted my attorney again. This time, we had evidence showing exactly what the HOA had been doing. Then I received one final message from Linda. She claimed the HOA had the right to continue selling the tickets. I looked at my deed, looked at the evidence, and decided it was time to prove exactly who owned the 11,500 acres.